Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the RomaPress podcast. We hope you are doing well. As always, thank you to all of our wonderful patrons who make this possible. If you would like to join the patron group chat, get early access to episodes, patreon.com/RomaPress. And once more, the support we have received on YouTube for the video version of the podcast. Again, incredibly overwhelming. We appreciate all of you who have subscribed, all of that stuff, all of you people who are just as degenerate as Andy and myself, joining him at the most inconceivable hours of the
1
day.
a.m. At 1 a.m. in
One,
Singapore, at 6 a.m. in Los Angeles, all over the world, everybody's in for the Roma
yes, even on international breaks, the fever does not break. So again, we can't thank you all enough. It truly it is incredibly overwhelming still to have all of these views and have all the support. It again overwhelming to see it come this far and to have so many people show their appreciation and their support. So we are immensely grateful. So thank you to everybody. Okay, I don't even know what we talk about right before we came on, because again, for those of you who don't know, we have never written a single time. Andy and I, we don't write the script. We don't have anything. This is all like off the cuff. Is it off the cuff? That's the way you say it. Off the
off the
cuff.
cuff. Yeah, man, absolutely.
I got to get up to these UK. They always have those great phrases off the cuff, but we don't have talking points. We don't have a script, which is why we will sometimes go into very odd tangents about who knows what. I want to avoid getting into one now, but we have this thing, and this was Roma's little way of giving me the middle finger, because when I mentioned in the previous episode the situation of Jose Mourinho not having engaged in a contract negotiation. I don't know if anybody remembers. A couple of months ago, I had mentioned I spoke with somebody from his agency, the one guy who isn't George Mesh, that will speak to the media, and he said, we want to get some form of
But did you,
clarity.
did you say George Mensch or George
Yeah, I
Mendes?
said it exactly
Oh,
exactly
Mendes.
as all
Mendes.
my good friends from Record told me
Okay.
to correctly pronounce it.
Okay.
I when I once I hear it the way because I listen to other not even Italian television. I'll listen to somebody in the UK and they'll say uh, uh, George Mendes, just
Mendes. Yeah,
yeah,
Mendes.
these very odd pronunciations that once you hear the correct
They
Portuguese,
break your brain. Sure.
you can never hear it another way. So after
Okay.
speaking to one of the guys that I should just, it doesn't really matter. It's a guy who used to be a player. He's a defender, Brazilian guy. He is for all intents and purposes the go to guy there. He said, well, we from our standpoint, we wanted a signal, we wanted clarity from Roma before the new year, sometime during the holiday, and oddly enough, I mentioned in the previous episode, to date, there wasn't any signal from Roma as to when they're going to hold discussions. And then, of course, literally 24 hours after we published that, Roma began leaking to every single person imaginable that they're going to do something. They want to hold discussions over the next couple of months. And of course, it's not Roma putting their name to it. You will know when this is the case when it's the same report by the same 10 websites, television broadcasters. That's
Within like
Roma.
2 minutes. Yeah, within like 2 minutes,
Yes,
everybody said that.
it's the exact same way when a transfer deal happens. They tell everybody at the same time. Okay, it's not like they trickle it down to one person and then to the next and then to somebody else. Well, maybe they do. I don't know, but we're lucky enough to hear things relatively quickly, the same time as everybody else. So anytime they're willing to leak something like that, and you see it coming out to the one, okay, then we know what's going on here. So that kind of that annoyed me just a tad, because it was one of those instances where you think to yourself, okay, well, they definitely watched that or did something, because even though we may seem like two imbeciles here who discuss Godfather 3 and have very odd puns, discuss older women from Delaware or Vermont, Delaware or
Long
Vermont. What
neck,
did you say?
long neck Delaware. Yeah.
Delaware. They do follow what you and I say, what we write. If there is something they need to clarify, for instance, just recently, one of their, well, no, I shouldn't say it. It was within the last month or two. A very high executive, after an interview was published, the Italian version of the interview was mistranslated, and we didn't go by the initial original broadcast. We went by the Italian version of it, and within like 5 minutes of that thing being published, they said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! We didn't say this. We didn't say this." So it was one of those times where, after I talked about the thing of Jose Mourinho, I couldn't help but think to myself, "Oh, that seemed a bit spiteful." But anyway, they wanted to make it clear they do intend on holding a discussion with Jose Mourinho sometime in January or February. It definitely will not be February. Let me assure you of that. It will be sometime within the next few weeks. And we are still in this very odd place. I mentioned it the last time in the previous episode, where you have Jose Mourinho coming up for expiration. You have Thiago Pinto coming up for expiration of his contract. And it is a precarious situation because you seemingly have all of these things intertwined. Even though it may not feel that way, even though it may not, perhaps we may be a bit naive or not wanting to accept it. The difficult thing for me, Andy, when I see a lot of people, particularly in the patron group chat, I mean, Jose Mourinho is a very divisive guy and has been since he arrived. I mean, the moment he came, I had felt like child 27 was being born. That's how excited I was. And I still hold that level of elation because to
But
have a guy like,
somebody actually in the comments the last episode actually fell for the fact that you have 22 children. He and the question
no,
was,
it's
how many
it's
wives are there? Um,
no, it's
so
not. I don't
remember,
live in
it's
Utah.
time
Or
we.
it's
I think
Utah,
it's
right,
time
or
we
North
narrow down
Dakota.
the number of children because
It's more. It's more than four, but it's less than 25. So I don't
exactly.
know. That's what that will narrow it down. But in all seriousness, when it comes to Jose Mourinho, I am not hiding or have hidden the fact that even in the times when Roma underperformed, do not look good, uh, and this is even, I think, apparent in the way. Well, I think I am making it very and abundantly clear. I do admire the guy more so than many of the previous Roma managers, because I get told for kissing his backside a little too much, but so be it. After you are subjected to Zeman, Eusebio Di Francesco, I mean, the list goes on. I can't do that today. Now, um, when a guy like Jose Mourinho comes to Roma, yeah, I'm going to give him far more benefit of the doubt than I do Eusebio Di Francesco. So, okay. Uh, whether we want to admit it or not, and this is something I brought up in the group chat a few weeks ago to some of our patrons when there was some frustration with Jose Mourinho, my stance on the situation, because there were many saying, well, I don't know what we should do if we don't qualify for Champions League, if once progress is made, if really this season you finish outside of top four. And I can understand that argument because it holds plenty of truth to it. In 3 years, you brought this guy in. If you fail to qualify for Champions League this year, then I can understand many wanting to say, well, okay, you can like this guy and be appreciative of everything he has done in the past, but what has he done for you? Not just football, but sport in general is a very what have you done for me lately sort of thing, uh, regardless of the sport. So I can understand that mentality, but where I come out on it is this guy, and again, whether we want to admit it or not, many of the guys who are at Roma right now are I won't say strictly here because of Jose Mourinho, but they would otherwise not be here had it not been for Jose Mourinho. That's not controversial, right?
No,
When I
but
said that,
I
some
think the
pushed
main
back on
question
that.
is, yeah, but I think the main question in this regard, in this situation, at this point in time, is when do we stop looking at what happens off the pitch with regards to
Mm,
Mourinho's appeal, and when do we start discussing and looking at what is being done on the pitch this season? Because I think, obviously the jury is still out for this season, but we can all agree that the first 3 months have not lived up to the expectations of a team that supposedly had, you know, been been wronged in the Europa League final, and whose objective this season was to finally take that step forward and qualify for Champions League football. And on the pitch, in these 3 months, they have done not enough to qualify for Champions League football. At this point in time, if you were to answer the question, do they qualify? I'm pretty sure that even you and me included would be negative about it. This team right now, as things stand, do not qualify for Champions League football. Can that be solved? Yes, but that I think that's where all this Mourinho discussion stands, and that's why Roma have waited, and that's why Mourinho went today. He was asked by TG Uno if he's going to stay next season. He simply replied, I don't know, because that is the simple truth. And people think, oh, well, there is a lack of, like media love to do it. The newspapers, they love to do it. There is a lack of communication between him and Dan Friedkin. No, that's not the case. Mourinho said in the interview with TG Uno, he said, no, I talked to Dan Friedkin after the match against Lazio. Right before the international break, I spoke to him on the phone. We talked about the game. I speak to Ryan Friedkin, so the vice president of Roma, on a regular basis, but we speak of the day's work. And I think that's reasonable. That's the only thing you can do right now. Like,
right.
what
Well,
is
you have to laugh because, man, these are the same outlets, though. When Roma they drop points, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of scenario. Because if they had committed to him, they would be saying, "Well, Roma, were they wise in showing this level of commitment to Jose Mourinho? Is he go?" Uh, every time I try to,
Mourinho,
I think of the word
is Mourinho going to just sit there and earn his paycheck? Is this, like,
right.
is this his vacation or his retirement plan? I think it's we are in a situation that is expected of us. Like, this is Roma have not given us enough answers on and off the pitch. The team is not performing up to a standard. Mourinho is not doing, in my opinion, enough with what he has. There are circumstances that which he cannot prevent, which don't depend on him,
Yes.
like injuries, of course. But so far, I've seen a team that is flat and that is not competitive enough that I could name it among the favorites to contend for top four. So this can all be easily resolved in the next few weeks, in the next few months. But I think it's only fair to Roma, which I love Mourinho, but obviously I place Roma up here. I like what the Friedkins are doing, but I still place Roma up here. I like Totti, but I place Roma up here. Like, so. In fairness to Roma, it's only correct to have this unresolved situation, because we haven't had the reassurances that we wanted on the pitch. There is no backup plan. When this team goes into a spiral of negativity, they stay in it. When some players are not performing, the coach doesn't seem to be able to read the situation and improve the conditions of their performances. So if you're not providing me with the answers, why should I provide you with a contract right here,
Mm,
right now?
that nobody is going to argue with that mindset, and nobody is going to argue with they've done absolutely nothing the
Are
first
you
three
sure
months.
nobody? because a lot of people are either
Well,
calling for Mourinho's head or they're calling for Roma to act on it and give him the new contract so that he can feel comfortable and continue with his work. Right? So you
well,
have a faction of people that are like, bring me Conte, bring me Thiago Motta, bring me this, bring me that.
oh, but,
And then
this,
there are other then there are other people who are like, well, why would you want, like, how can you expect him to perform if he doesn't have any guarantees for the future?
see, for me, my mindset more so is I don't like. It would be one thing to have your manager, your head coach, being expiring of his contract. To me, the unique part of this dilemma is you have Tiago Pinto tied to it as well, and that adds not only uncertainty on the bench, but really that adds uncertainty to the entire construction of the team. You have a sporting director, general manager. That's what it is. A general manager
Yes.
who has a vision of the team, how it should be built, along with the manager, and they work cohesively together. But once you lose the general manager or general director, regardless of who you bring in, whether you make minor change, I mean, I know the name that is going to automatically the second if it is learned that Thiago Pinto is not going to renew. I will give you a clue as to who the name that will be linked and probably would at least be among the few favorites to be higher than the pointed in the role, at least in my opinion.
What do you mean?
Uh,
Masara?
I was just about to say the name rhymes with Nikki,
Ah, yeah. Okay. 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 Yeah. 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 Rick,
and admittedly, I can't hide it. I
everybody
know
loves
him.
the
I
guy.
like him. Yeah,
Everybody
he's
loves the
very polite. But in all seriousness, as far as the current situation, I just don't like how it's Thiago Pinto and Jose Mourinho. I agree with you though when it comes to when it comes to the guarantees part. Listen, man, it's not that we don't respect everything you've done before you came to Roma, and like you, as much as I love Jose Mourinho, the most important thing to me is Roma, and the fact of the matter would be if you don't do it this season, it would be once again you were brought here really to do one thing, well, two: win a trophy, finish top four. We have been hearing the thing of a club like Roma should be in Champions League all the time, blah 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 blah, and for it not to happen would be a very big problem within the span of 3 years. And somehow would still go back. 2018 was the last time they were in, correct? Oof.
Yeah. 2018, 2019. Think about it.
Mm. Oof. Okay.
The Porto
So
game.
more than half a decade.
Florenzi's pulled shirt is the last memory.
We bring that up so much. I
Champions.
mean, we
Or
talk about
okay,
Roma.
then no, then Schick's missed penalty, like the missed penalty call on Schick. Remember?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that one very clearly. I thought you were going to talk about anytime we bring up Champions League and depressing moments. I count on you to point to a few moments. It's that one, or when our good friend Thomas Vermaelen decided to go.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
That
I,
was
I
that was the year before. Yeah, with no, the 2 years
right,
before with Spalletti.
right
Yeah,
with
that was okay.
Spalletti and
That was surreal. But then, if you think about Porto, our last memory is literally Dzeko getting what he was red carded, or when he
yes,
went up again, or no? What happened between him and Pepe? Basically, Dzeko like simulated and fell to the ground.
right. It
Florenzi
was a
Florenzi caused the penalty by pulling the opponent's shirt, and then there was a no penalty call on Schick. So that was
the shirt pull though of Florenzi was so it was comical in how clear and obvious it was. I mean, do you remember? It reminded me because on my Twitter from some years ago, I have a video or a clip of Florenzi, and all I tweeted was, "Here it is, the captain of Roma." And he is playing it right back and he is defending. It's against Genoa. And I think it was either Genoa or
yeah,
Milan
yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
dying
When
moments.
he jumped into the
He
air.
ju- like a pump fake, like those. It looked like it was
Yeah, yeah. It
somebody
looked like he was playing
acting.
against Carmelo Anthony.
Yes, I mean the guy had never gotten airborne like that since having done both of his knees in. And yet, in this instance, in the final dying seconds of a match, he decided to go full Air Jordan, jump 50 feet in the air. He loses his marker. The man goes around and dribbles around him, puts in a clean delivery, and they score. And it was the embodiment of the Florenzi experience. You got to live all of it in that moment. But I can't believe it's been that long. But going back to what we were saying, you cannot fault Roma. You cannot fault Friedkins. Nobody is at fault for not being quick to hand out contracts to anybody because even as much as I like Thiago Pinto too. Okay, well, you've been here what January 2021. Um, you've had more than ample time. You will have 3.5 years. Well, what do we have to show for it? And that is the proper thing to do. If the if the objective for this long has been top four Champions League and you haven't done it, there's nothing really to say or to debate. That's on you. You leave no choice. So I understand that, but now we are going to get into the part of the season where while you had this lingering in the early part, now you are getting into the portion of it where it is
It's the
going to
meaty
become
part.
more pronounced. Well,
Listen,
it's
for us
going.
to listen, for us too, it will be the most depressing part. You know
Oh,
that. You know that, and I don't know that. We'll be getting on here time and time again, and there will be awkward silence between the two of us, and both of us will try to get it out of the way as soon as possible. You know it. That's gonna be the a cherry on the cake right before Christmas. Admit it,
well,
John.
I have to.
And
I
that's for us, it's going to be a period of great depression and anxiety, but for Roma it will be a period of answers. Like, if there is a time for Roma to address Mourinho's future, to address Pinto's future, to address Paulo Dybala's future, this is it. Because as you said it on the last podcast, that's the season right there. Those games, Bologna, Napoli, Juve, Atalanta, Milan, before that Cremonese, that's the season right there. So, on one hand, I'm dreading it, but on the
Oh,
other
I'm
hand,
dreading it too.
all the uncertainty will have to be resolved then.
Well, that leads me to my next thing. If anybody is going to be near the stadium, I'm returning in a couple of weeks or a few weeks. Um, I'll be at the match against Fiorentina and then Sheriff, I believe. Um, because I'm a glutton for
You
punishment.
took a chance of the match with you couldn't wait for like Cremonese or whatever, like
Well, with child number
something like,
20, well,
God.
child number 29 on the way. I have to get everything in order, in order now.
Okay.
And I figured, well, what better way to not only ring in a new year, but also the birth of a new being in my family with
Oh my God.
absolutely subjecting yourself to
Oh
just
God.
complete and utter
Well,
depravity on the football
I think if
pitch.
we have like betting people in our listening fan base, I think you can, guys, just even against Sheriff, please just
Yeah,
bet
well,
Bet on a
the
loss.
thing,
Bet on a loss because John is there. So
but the thing is, and you kind of laid it out here because Roma they returned this weekend against Udinese, and I said it I think maybe 1 or 2 months ago when I saw the calendar originally. Man, the prospect of doing the thing that you and I have done the last few years in February. They were kind enough, if you remember, I think it was the final season of Paulo Fonseca, where it was late March because that was
yeah,
when
late March,
everybody
early
got
April,
injured.
for everything crashed and burned.
Everyone got injured. So they were kind enough to wait at least until spring is technically in March, correct? Spring usually technically
March
arrives in
25th.
March. They were kind enough at least to wait until springtime to really um, remove any hope or any excitement from us. I have to tell you, the way you just ran off that calendar, I mean, the prospect of doing this just after the new year, when it's you still have the air of the holidays.
Right before, during, and after. Yes, you're not. We're not spared any of the
No,
holidays.
no, we're not. But this is one of those times, and we say it every season. So I don't know why I should feel more optimistic this time than I would in previous years. They they have to show something. I can't do this early again. But the fact of the matter is, and I will repeat myself for the umpteenth time, because you drop points to Verona, to Salernitana, now you have to do it. Now you have to do it against Bologna. You have to do it against Napoli, Atalanta. Um, but the thing is, okay, just within the span of the exact same week, when they come, not even at, but when they approach their ceiling, their highest level of quality and output within a match, I mean, they are without question, in my opinion, a top four team in Serie A. But the problem is they also have a floor that is so low. I mean, the disparity in which you can get from them from match to match is so frightening. And that is something we could have said about Roma for the last 10 years, really. So it's not as if I am saying something different or profound or nothing that any of you have not thought of before. I mean, the fact that, again, we can have something like Genoa and then it was Frosinone like a few days later, correct? I mean, it's obscene what they subject us to, but I don't know I mean, they could come out this weekend against Udinese, man, and completely bottle it, and I wouldn't be shocked. And then they some weeks later go out there, defeat Napoli, Milan, and I would believe it all one way or the other. You could any scenario you were to lay out to me right now as to what could happen, what may happen, or what will happen, I would believe it because this team forces you to be gullible. You have to because of this lack of consistency, because of this lack of concreteness in their results from month to month. You are at the point where you are willing to believe just about anything and envision anything. You and I are saying right now, because we're pessimists by nature, at least to some degree, you and I are both envisioning complete and utter meltdown.
I hope for the best, but I expect the worst. I mean,
Well,
that's key with
exactly.
Roma. You can't just put all your faith, all your eggs into one basket. I mean, think about it. It's not that complicated. Look, Roma can get out of this international break and look hot as hell, determined. They could have a whole different strategy. They could have Renato Sanchez and Pellegrini starting. They could have perhaps
Has that happened once this season? Those two,
I mean, no.
not even Empoli, yeah.
Empoli, maybe, yeah, Empoli, just Empoli for
Or, or
45 minutes because that's how long Renato Sanchez was on the pitch.
right.
But
Oh, yes, it
but
was.
but but maybe,
No,
hey,
there was no Pellegrini.
there was no
There was no
Pellegrini. See,
Pellegrini.
so make a change, like make something. Put, I don't know, if you don't like what Paredes is doing, put him on the bench. Put Renato Sanchez instead of him. If
Well,
you think Bove is not good enough of a playmaker, start Pellegrini. If you want Cristante out there commanding the midfield, keep him on. But there has to be something. I refuse to believe that what we've seen is that's it. That's Roma's limit. Like I refuse to believe that even a match like Empoli is the apex of what Roma can do on the pitch. I refuse to believe it because, as you say, Pellegrini was not there. I refuse to believe that a team that has not learned to utilize Jose Mourinho effectively can consider
mm,
itself at its fullest potential. I refuse to believe a team that has failed to incorporate Renato Sanchez, obviously for obvious reasons, but still,
yeah.
you know, I refuse to believe that that team cannot, perform better, be unpredictable, be more daring. Like that, right now, nothing is written. We come on here and we sound negative. Well, we sound negative because we've seen this movie too many times. But it would be pleasant if they learned something If they learn to
Mm.
put the pieces together, and maybe Jose Mourinho could finally return to being the Jose Mourinho that we saw in the second half of his first season, where all of a sudden he understood the assignment. He understood what he's working with. He understood that, okay, he's not going to get the greatest players in January. He got Sergio Oliveira. He made Sergio Oliveira work. He had Henrik Mkhitaryan. He changed his position. He changed his assignments. He completely changed this game. He had Nicola Zalewski, a kid from the Primavera, come in and replace Leonardo Spinazzola and Matias Vigna, and it did wonders for him. He took a chance on Felix. He took a chance on Volpato. He switched things. He changed. He tried to play with what he had at his disposal. There was a moment where he even relied on Carles Perez. He didn't give up on the team. He gave up on some players that left in January of that year, but he didn't give up on the team as a whole. So I just refuse to believe that what we're seeing is the finished product. And Mourinho himself has said it many, many times. This is
Yes.
not it. This is not it. The team has potential. This is not it. We haven't explored some of the options. But you are the manager. You're the only one who can explore those options. I can't. I can state my preference. I can say I prefer this guy to start over this guy. But it's up to you to find the answers, to find the options. Because right now, if you ask me, what is Roma's plan B? What is Roma's plan A, first of all? But
Yeah. Well,
what is their alternative to when things go south? So far, we haven't seen it. When things go south,
don't ask us that. There
no,
is none. There is none.
there is none.
No,
When
no,
things go south this year, Roma are look helpless. Like they are
yes.
struggling to turn things around against Lecce. It went all right, but that should teach you something. It should teach you. Sardar Azmoun, is he useless? No, we've seen that he's not useless. He can give you something. Well, if Paulo Dybala is not working, if Paulo Dybala is not
Put him
feeling
out there. Yeah.
put Sardar Azmoun out there. He's not playing in the Europa League, so he's not going to get fatigued playing once a week.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You just brought up Husam Awar. What guys that you brought in the summer. To have them still be an enigma, at this point, to not really have a clear idea as to what their role is or where they belong within this team is the frustrating part. Look, we're not going to come on here and break down the match against Udinese because it's the same thing as we have been saying. You have to win. Okay, this is an Udinese side in 12 matches, 8 goals scored, 15 conceded. I mean, a team that struggles to score, they concede a lot. The hell do you want me to say? Win. There's no real great
Absolutely,
insight
absolutely.
where it's
I
going
mean,
to give. They have one guy that is worth a damn in my opinion, and I think it's probably the one everybody thinks.
who?
So the guy who was about to go to Inter, but then his old man asked for a bit of little more underneath the table. We don't have to get into that. I don't want to. I don't want to do that one because his father was text messaging anybody in the media about the deal. I won't even say his name for fear of I
Oh,
don't know being thrown
retribution.
into.
Okay. No, but Roma, of course, Roma have to win. What they have to, in my opinion, what they have to show me right now is that they are not one dimensional. That they
Mm,
cannot afford to be one dimensional. There is every single team out there who's competing for the same objectives has those different game plans. They have different ideas. Even Napoli, who I don't know what they'll do with Mazzari, but even if they want to, if they
they
manage
don't even
to
know.
turn it on, they'll find a way. The same thing goes for Milan. The same thing goes for Inter. Well, obviously, these are different categories, but the point is, you cannot be static. You cannot be stagnant. You
Yes.
cannot be satisfied with the few good performances that you've had this season because it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to make us believe that you can compete for the objectives that you set out for in the first place.
Exactly. Nothing else to say, nothing else to add. We will leave it there. We will be back after the weekend. Just win. Just win. Just win. Until next time, ciao.
Ciao.